Some people like bad Pokemon, and that's fine. It's not always about the highest stats or the best moves or the best competitive skills, the best ability. It's not about that. Some people just like bad Pokemon. Some people like Luvdisc. Some people like Lumineon, but not me. I only like good Pokemon, like Maractus and Forets. But Game Freak does make some bad Pokemon on purpose. Why do I talk like that sometimes? I have no idea. If you haven't watched Wolfie's Worlds video, yeah, you absolutely should. It's one of the best videos I've ever seen on this freaking platform, and you should absolutely watch it. Although you probably have. Even if you have, you should go and watch it again. It's amazing.
This Pokemon is terrible. Luvdisc is, by almost any competitive metric, completely awful. The only fully evolved Pokemon with a base stat total lower than Luvdisc can either turn into every other Pokemon, learn basically every move in the entire game, be completely immune to almost half of all attacks, or only exist when it only has 25% of its health left.
But I tell you what, Luvdisc is good for, you know, finding a shiny form to send to your Valentine on Valentine's Day. That's something it's useful for.
Luvdisc, on the other hand, has two unremarkable abilities. When it's raining, it either gets a stat boost to its speed, which is its only passable stat, or it can heal its status conditions.
How would Luvdisc even know it's raining if it's underwater all the time?
A bold play to assume that your opponent would bother wasting a status move on Luvdisc in the first place. Its move pool is so shallow that a Luvdisc wouldn't even be able to swim in it. Just about its only redeeming quality is that you can gift somebody a Luvdisc to show your undying affection.
Doesn't it get, like, Attract? I mean, Attract is one of the most overpowered statuses in the game. That's pretty useful, right?
Which I'm convinced is less to do with the fact that it's shaped like a heart, and more because this thing is so weak, it's one of the only circumstances where you can safely hand somebody a wild animal.
I wonder, did they ever talk about why they didn't make Luvdisc evolve into Alomomola? Is it literally just because Generation 5 has this own dex where it's not connected to any of the previous dexes? Is that the only reason why it doesn't evolve into it? Why did they even make Alomomola? Why didn't they make it in Generation 4 or even like save it for Generation 6 and have the evolution pop up then? Why did they do this?
When Gen 5 first leaked, fans were absolutely convinced that a Llama had to be a Luvdisc evolution, a long-awaited upgrade to a Pokemon severely in need of some help.
And upgrade is a big word for Alomomola. A very big words. A massive words.
Imagine their horror when it was revealed that instead, Game Freak had just created an entirely separate, unrelated, heart-shaped pink fish Pokemon. Do they just want Luvdisc to be bad? Well, yeah, actually. I'm willing to bet that Game Freak will never make Luvdisc good, or even give.
I mean, why would you even want to? It's cutesy. To be fair, this is, oh, you know what they did? They did this for the merch. This is great for merchandise. Having a heart-shaped Pokemon, that is perfect pillow material.
Give it a good evolution for that matter. Because here's the secret. Game Freak makes some Pokemon bad on purpose. And more interestingly, that's actually a good thing. To examine why though, we're gonna have
Yeah, I mean, you can't have every Pokemon being good, can you? I mean, it would kind of defeat the point of having the different stat levels and all the different types of Pokemon that you can use, all the different levels of competitive play, all the decision making that goes into making a team. Like, some Pokemon are bad because, yeah, I mean, not every animal is super strong. Some of the frogs out there in the wild aren't poisonous. They're just little frogs and they just die. They're not very good at it being alive. Pandas out in the wild just don't eat very good. Bamboo is not very nutritious, so they're not very good at staying alive. Some animals, even though they survived this far due to evolution, just aren't very good at being alive.
break it down, because there are a lot of bad Pokemon in this franchise.
Whoa, hey, take Forret out of, Forret absolutely should not be there right now, please. I mean, I know it's just like going through Generation 2, but I don't think we should have Forret on screen while we're talking about bad Pokemon. It would mislead some people.
And they're not all bad for
Oh, visual representation, not all of them suck. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know what? Shout out to the editor. Thank you, Iconoclast, for making such a very valid and very powerful point. And also, thank you, Ponchow, for the wonderful thumbnail that you've made for this video, too.
the same reasons. Luvdisc and Furret both kind of suck, but they've got their...
What? Hey, that is not true. What you... Forret is... You ever heard of Baton Pass?
unique ways of sucking, and it would be downright disrespectful to the long and storied practice of sucking to lump them together, as opposed to acknowledging the specific nuances to how they've garnered such ability to suck.
They're not it's not
Part
that
one,
bad.
the Achilles heel. You all know the myth of Achilles, right? He's like a big dude, really strong warrior guy, Mog's Hector. Kind of like me if I
Played by Brad Pitt in the movie Troy. Actually super sick.
lived in ancient times or whatever. His mom dipped him in a pretty gnarly looking river when he was a kid. You might think that's bad parenting, but the moms of the Pokemon world let their 10-year-olds become vagrants who bet on animal fights for a living. And
That is kind of crazy. Guys, remember in Pokemon Platinum when the world is ending and demons and Satan is being summoned and yeah, Cynthia's there. Where's the Elite Four? Where are the Elite Four? What are they doing? Are they busy? What are they up to at the time? Oh, surely Cynthia can handle it, really? Do you want to leave that up to chance? Because it's Satan? It's a potentially cataclysmic world-shattering event? What are you so busy with, Lucian, that you have to stay in the diva? What are you doing, Aaron? What are you making a nicer home for your little bugs? Flint's out trying to solve Volcana's depression, but Bertha, what are you doing? Is your hip so shattered, fragile, that you can't even leave anymore? Suppose Lucian was reading the newest Stormlight archive book. Can't leave then.
Achilles' weird bath did make him totally invincible except for his heel. So all things considered, I think good old Thetis actually deserves Mother of the Year award. There's a whole group of Pokemon who continue the lineage of Achilles. These are the Pokemon with their own Achilles heels, something that intentionally hampers them in order to balance out some other part of their design that might otherwise be overwhelming.
And some Pokemon's Achilles heel is just their entire everything. They don't have anything that's good about them at all.
Usually this takes the form of an Achilles ability that can temper a stat profile that would otherwise be totally broken. We can see this type of archetype represented by Pokemon like Slacking, Archeops, and my personal favorite, Regigigas. We'll get to that later. Slacking, in contrast to Luvdisc, has the highest base stat total of any non-legendary, non-mega Pokemon ever introduced in the series.
I mean, just look at that belly. He deserves it. My goodness.
670 total BST.
That's higher than most legendaries. That's higher than almost all legendaries,
this thing
actually.
Is sitting on the same level as Kyogre, Groudon, Koraidon, and Miraidon.
But only half the
It's
time.
got a disgustingly high attack stat, really nice bulk, and even a decent speed stat that allows it to move faster than a large portion of opponents.
Which is shocking that he is so fast. I love the trope of a really big fat fella getting really fast. I think that's such a fun trope, and I wish that it was used more. Like the biggest, burliest, chubbiest guys just moving at the speed of light. I love to see it.
That is when Slacking is actually, able to move at all. Because more than any of that, what you probably remember about Slacking is its ability, Truant, which only allows Slacking to move once every other turn. Now,
I mean, that's fine. If you only need one turn, then what more could you need? Listen, you throw a Choice Scarf on this and Giga Impacts, it's killing everything regardless.
That might not have felt like such a big downside when you were getting obliterated by Norman in the Petalburg gym, who, by the way, absolutely takes the cake for the worst parent in the entire Pokemon franchise.
True.
He forces you to move to another region, abandons you in your new house, and then hacks in to Slaking that shouldn't even have evolved yet. We get it, Dad. They're your real children. But in competitive Pokemon, Truant is even worse than you could imagine. With the prevalence of Protect in VGC battles, you can pretty much guarantee that Slacking just never gets a chance to attack at all.
I mean, you could use like Skill Swap maybe.
Sure, there are some shenanigans you can pull by having your teammate set up on that turn or by using Feint to break Protect, but the long and short of it is that Pokemon is a game where you make moves, and Slacking only gets to do that half as often. Cut that 670 BST in half and we get to 335, which is actually still higher than Luvdisc. One less than Unknown. Slacking is definitely better than Unknown, but make no mistake, this Pokemon is dog water. Our next Achillean hero is Regigigas, who honestly is eerily similar to Slacking. In addition to being normal types, they actually share that same BST of 670, with a very similar...
Yeah, they have the same attack stat, they have quite similar bulk, they have the same speed stat, like they actually do share more than I realized initially.
And of course, they also both share absolutely terrible abilities. While Slacking loses half of its turns, Regigigas loses half of its stats, at least the most important ones. Slow Start halves the Titan's attack and speed for the first 5 turns that it's on the field.
It's crazy because 8 is still not that bad.
Slacking might not have many turns, but at least it can theoretically hit hard when it does attack. Regigigas instead has firepower equivalent to Slacking's little brother, Vigoroth, and it can't even hold the Eviolite item. I did get second place at a regional in 2012 using Regigigas, but I didn't use it to do any damage.
Oh, yeah, the shiny one too.
I loaded it up with the most annoying support moves that I could find and took advantage of its huge natural bulk. While it did work, it's a pretty sad way to use a Pokemon that has more attack than Groudon.
I feel like the nerf is a little bit too hard. 5 turns is an eternity in Pokemon battles, even longer in double battles. So even if you just had it like, say, 3 turns, maybe 2 turns, so you could protect on one of them. I mean, Regigigas just recently got protect. It didn't have protect for generations, and it just recently got it. So even if you could just, protect on a turn, just kind of stall out the first 3, and then you get your act together. 5 turns is so long, it's ridiculous.
Archeops might not have quite the stat line of our 2 normal types.
Archeops is so sad because it's a really cool idea and it's so good on like the first turn.
But its attacking stats and speed are nothing to scoff at. In fact,
it even has good special attack for some reason. I don't really know why. I suppose when you go into defeatist range, you're supposed to use a special attack.
Its BST is only outclassed by 2 other Pokemon who aren't legendaries, megas.
Oh no, defeatist cuts your special attack and attack,
Paradoxes,
right?
or the illustrious members of the 600 Club, Palavan Hero, and of course, Slacking. Which, okay, yeah, when I say it out loud, I realize that is a lot of qualifications. It's like Archeops is claiming to be the best Ganondorf player over 6'2" with lactose intolerance in Staten Island. But here's the thing, much like our
it's a thing!
Ganon player friend.
Sorry, I've been playing so much Marvel Rivals recently. Marvel is like back for me. It's like actually so back. I mean, the movies have fallen off completely. Don't care about those anymore. But Marvel Rivals, damn. Like, yeah, of course. I love the thing now. I've never even freaking seen him before.
It doesn't matter how niche Archeops' claim to fame is. When he hits you, it hurts. Just don't let him get close to any cheese. In Archeops' case, that cheese would be reducing its HP below half. See, to most Pokemon, lowering their health seems like a valid strategy. But this dramatic diva does not appreciate your underhanded tactics of dealing damage to your opponent. Archeops is like your friend who, once you start beating them in a game, goes, man, you're trying so—
I just realized Archeops is just Whitney. Whitney starts to lose a little bit and she starts crying and says you're a meanie. Doesn't want to do anything anymore. Doesn't want to attack anymore.
So hard, dude. It's just a game. I don't even care that much. And it just so happens to line up with the point where they start playing a way worse. Defeatist are—
Oh my god, wait, I found out what it is. In gamer terms, if you are a video gamer and you video game online, Archeops' ability is the equivalent of getting tilted. Archeops takes a lot of damage, gets a little mad, and gets tilted and starts playing so much worse than it was before. Archeops is a gamer.
Archeops' ability halves Archeops' attacking stats when it's below half HP. Now, you might notice that this ability is fundamentally better than both Truant and Slow Start.
Oh my god, Archeops is the one in the game, the DPS in the game that says GG no heals after they die once after diving into the enemy team. I'm sorry, this maybe only applies to like people who play like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals or hero shooters, but this is the really annoying team member that immediately gives in as soon as the first inconvenience happens.
While all of them offer about a half power decrease, this one is conditional. And unlike Regigigas' ability, Archeops at least gets to start the battle at full strength. This is because Achilles' abilities exist on a kind of linear axis. The stronger the Pokemon would be without its ability, the more the ability has to hinder that Pokemon. Archeops isn't quite as strong as Regigigas or Slacking, so the ability doesn't have to be quite as bad. Some humans have abilities that nerf them too. For example,
wait, really?
I have the ability Bad Gift Giver, which, makes me really bad at giving gifts. I know.
Well, I hope there's a sponsor in this video that'll sort that for you.
It's unfortunate. Maybe I need to keep like a little wheezing in my pocket during the holidays. Thankfully, neutralizing gas isn't the only way I can be saved from my ability. I also have Holzkern to help me out. Holzkern specializes in watches and jewelry, which make incredible gifts for all genders, meaning I can use their website for all of my gifting needs for the rest of time.
That's so good.
Forever.
Oh my god, wait, I didn't know he was going to say that. Am I in sync with, we actually said that, I don't know how we did that, but we did it.
Oh. Hello? Oh.
Who's that?
What's that, Mom? You have 3 Holzkern watches already because it's all I ever gift you?
No, it's going to be me! Wait, I literally say all the time that I'm like sorted on gifts because I keep using I use my own Holzkern discount code to buy things from Holzkern because I think that it's a sick gift. So I bought my family. I bought my brother a watch. I bought my dad a watch. I got rings and bracelets to like my mom, my grandma, my other grandma. Like, oh my god, there's gonna become a point where they're like, Daniel, you need to stop getting us watches. But there's so many things you can get though from Holzkern though. So maybe like get sunglasses instead. You can get rings. I have a ring from Holzkern that I love. It's this one right here. I think it's really sick. And I don't know. I wasn't really much of a ring person, but now I kind of am.
Well, don't worry. because now you have 4.
Wow!
You can see this. I don't want to take it out of the box yet because this is
really
actually
pretty.
really a gift from my mom. That's not a joke. Also, I got her these really nice earrings. Holzkern has things that aren't just watches. The problem is that these are... Oh, you can see them now. I recorded earlier and you couldn't see the green screen was keying out the earrings. But yeah, they're very nice. I hope she likes them. My mom isn't upset to get more Holzkern products, especially because every product is made from natural materials, making them all extremely unique. And they're made
so
in
nice.
tiny batches to ensure the highest quality. All of Holzkern's products are made from FSC certified wood, and they offer free express
Silly editor, that's a rock type.
worldwide shipping that only takes 2 to 5 days. That is less
pretty
time
quick.
than it takes a Regigigas to get its act together. Orders
That's
placed
true.
before the 7th of February will be delivered before Valentine's Day, so you can show that special someone how you feel with a great gift. Isn't that right, Slacking? I think it's slaking, but people disagree, so I'm gonna say slacking because this is a sponsor. Use code Wolfie15 for 15% off your order and a
15%
free
off?
gift bag. Shopping with Holzkern makes me feel more powerful than ever. And as I said before, the stronger a Pokemon would be without its ability, the more its ability needs to nerf it. Thanks again to Holzkern for sponsoring this video.
Thanks, Holzkern,
Check out the
for
link in the
giving Wolfie
description
money.
and use code Wolfie15 for
Use code
15% off your
Wolfie15.
order and a free gift bag. We
You
can
get
see
a
that
bag,
will play
too.
out explicitly with our last example.
A freaking Toad Scroll. That's his name, right? Toad Scroll. Oh, they have broken Pokeballs in the background to represent the badness in it. Oh, that's so sick.
My good friend Toadscroll. Toadscroll stats are actually pretty mediocre. It's pretty specially tanky, but it does have this 4 times ice weakness as well as weaknesses to a couple other common types. It's kind of fast, but its attacking stats are bad. So what ability feels appropriate for that power level? And wait, why does Toadscroll need an Achilles ability at all? Well, for Toadscroll, it's
Spore.
not just because of its
That's it.
stats. It's the combination of its stats with one specific move, Spore. Spore is a
There it
move that had
is.
previously only ever been given to 5 Pokemon lines.
And they're all
Patterrz,
slow.
Shroomish, Morlul, and their evolutions, plus Smeargle.
And look how slow all these Pokemon are. The fastest one's Breloom at 70 base speed. How do I know that? Why do I remember base speed so easily? I don't know.
I don't want to talk about that guy. Okay, fine, I will, but later. Suffice it to say, you had to be part of a very exclusive fungi fraternity in order to use this move. And that's because Spore is one of the most broken moves in the game, because it makes whatever it hits take a nap, putting them out of commission for up to 3 turns.
As much as I love mushrooms, and I love mushrooms, I think like fungus and mushrooms is like super interesting and really cool. I saw a spider that was taken over by a fungus and being like guided around by it, and it freaked me out so much that I can't stop thinking about it. I'm getting chills. I'm getting bone chills just thinking about this freaking spider that's been dead and consumed by fungus. It's ugh.
To balance how strong Sleep is, most moves that can inflict it are under 100% accuracy. Spore is the one exception. Mushroom Pokemon, in keeping with their static inspirations, are slow. 3 of the Pokemon that learn Spore have a base 30 speed when fully evolved.
That has to be intentional, right? They thought all the fungus mons have got to have 30 speed. I mean, that is slow as it gets. I know someone that really likes Parasect, like it's their favorite Pokemon, and I just don't get it. I mean, I love Amoonguss. Amoonguss is sick, but Parasect... Okay, you know what, Parasect, you can be part of the cool club too.
Breloom only gets up to base 70. Even Smeargle is only base 75. For context, Pokemon considered to be on the lower end of the middling speed range are
90.
typically around 90 base speed or something close to that. Because of how powerful Spore is, Game Freak has intentionally made it easy to move before even the fastest Pokemon that can use it. Scarlet and Violet introduced some estranged family members into the mix though. Amoonguss's long-lost cousin, Brute Bonnet, and Tentacruel's terrestrial twin, Toadscroll.
But Brute Bonnet doesn't get Spore though,
That's
does
really
it?
hard to say. Brute Bonnet's got 55 speed, but Toadscroll has
Does it get Spore?
100. And that combined with the guarantee
Am I high? Am I high? Update, yeah, I'm high. Why did I think that Brute Bonnet didn't get Spore? I'm actually dumb.
sleep move is a recipe for disaster. Left unchecked, Toadscroll could spread a sleep epidemic among its foes. But Game Freak, for whatever reason, really wanted to make a fast mushroom Pokemon. So they needed a solution to stop Toadscroll from running away with the game.
They really should just made it slower and have bulkier stats.
The answer?
But I guess that is really similar to a lot of the mushroom Pokemon already. This would be the first like mushroom-esque Pokemon that is quite fast. So they're like, oh, we have to nerf this this, and they make this, and it's just, oh god, it's actually so sad that Toadscruel has this ability. But when we do then we fights and we get these random abilities, Toadscruel then becomes really, really, really good because you have a base 100 speed Spore, which, I mean, you could choice scarf it. You can become really, really fast Spore. Choice scarf it, switch out, then use that opportunity to set up potentially.
Psyllium Might. Toadscruel's ability only affects its status moves, which are the moves that don't do any damage. Whenever it uses one, it's guaranteed to go through opponent's abilities, but this part is honestly kind of a Trojan horse to ship in the whole Achilles part of the situation. Those moves will also always go last within their priority bracket. So no matter how fast your Toadscruel is, its spores are guaranteed to be slow. A very specific solution to a very specific problem. Toadscruel by itself isn't overpowered, so the ability doesn't need to nerf it that much. Now, it's fair to say that all these Pokemon on their own are truly bad. Their abilities hinder them to such a point that they can't make use of any of their actual good aspects.
But together, they create one of the worst teams you can ever make. There's really no sugarcoating it. Is a really bad team. I bet that Wolfie could use this team to get to like the Master Ball rank in Scarlet and Violet, like no problem.
If only they had some way to turn off these abilities. A few months ago, I actually entered the Baltimore Regional Championship with Toadscruel alongside one of the only Pokemon who can turn abilities off.
The Toadscruel is... Oh, well, the Toadscruel was right
with
there.
Weezing's neutralizing gas ability.
Oh, I got a shiny one too. Okay, so neutralizing gas makes you go faster.
My Toadscruel was free to show just how good it would be without that pesky ability. The result? Pretty good.
Wow. I went undefeated. You're pretty good. I mean, that's as good as it
defeated
gets,
on the first day of the tournament before finally being eliminated in the top 16. But I'm not the only player who tried to take away some of these Achilles heals. Back in Sword and Shield, Regigigas plus Weezing was actually a somewhat common strategy. With the
neutralizing gas is probably one of the best abilities in the game. Just being able to turn off other Pokemon's abilities, like for example, Regigigas. I mean, it's great in doubles, absolutely fantastic. You can use it next to a Slacking as well. It's like the erasure quirk from My Hero Academia.
Same idea behind Toadscruel and Weezing. But overall, these Pokemon are bad. These strategies that get around their abilities are not that dominant outside of a surprise tournament run every now and again.
Yeah, I mean, the problem really is that if your Weezing isn't on the field with your Regigigas, then it becomes a lot worse again. The ability will just reactivate, which means you're very limited in the amount of things that you can do.
I think it's actually good that they're bad. To explain why, we've got to go all the way back to their namesake, Achilles. Like I said earlier, you probably have heard a bit about Achilles, a fearsome warrior who was totally invulnerable except for his heel, because it was the spot his mother held him by when she dunked him in the river Styx. The story of Achilles' eventual death
should just let go. Honestly, just, you know, I'm pretty sure babies can swim, right? They'll be fine.
Downfall because of his weak spot is so well known that it's given the name to one of our body parts. Except here's the thing. In the original Iliad, Achilles' heel isn't mentioned at all. Achilles isn't even invulnerable in the first place. He's just goated. He's a mortal man who we see injured, and the story ends before his supposed weakness is ever exploited.
Yeah, but that's not cool for the myth and the legend. They need to build up the legend to make him sound bigger than life, stronger than any mortal man, because then you sell more books that way. At least I assume that's how. How do you even sell books in the ancient ages? Like, you write a story. I mean, we still know it, so it was retained somehow. Does everyone just like write it down again and keep it? How does it become like a bestseller? Are all the rich people passing around their scrolls like, oh, you got to read this one. This one's a banger.
That story wasn't written down until Publius Papinius Statius's unfinished epic poem, appropriately enough called the Achilliad, which he didn't write until sometime around 800 years after we think the Iliad was first written. Why did later...
Oh, he was just making stuff up. Oh, okay. This is one of those history movies where they take liberties with the history. This is like the Inglorious Bastards of ancient Troy.
Myths give Achilles this fatal flaw then. Why go through the trouble of retconning a story that was already enshrined? Well,
because it sounds sick if you do. I mean, that's really the reason, isn't it? It just sounds cool.
The answer's kind of simple. Because it's really cool.
Yeah, right. That's what I said. Oh my god, me and Wolfie are on like the same wavelength in this one. I swear this is not pre-watched. We're just thinking the same things today.
Look, Achilles is an interesting character in the Iliad, but he's also how do you say a little overpowered. Honestly, it's kind of rude that the main thing that we know him for is his one weakness that he actually does have. You know, I think it's hilarious you kids talking about Achilles. You wouldn't say this stuff to him at Troy. He's jacked. Not only that, but he wears the freshest loin.
That's a nice old meme. Bring that one back.
Gets dipped in the chillest rivers and hangs out with the hottest dudes.
Oh my god, that's actually another good old meme.
Y'all are pathetic, lol. Achilles' heel lets him stay overpowered while also being flawed, human, interesting. And that's why Game Freak makes these Pokemon. It's cool to have a monstrously powerful Pokemon who has one major flaw that you have to find a way of overcoming. It means Game Freak has the latitude to give a Pokemon like Slacking insane stats, or to make a turbocharged mushroom that they never could have done before.
At least it is unique. It stops all the Pokemon feeling samey. If you say you have like a normal type that seems quite strong, like, okay, you've already got Snorlax, but what if there was a normal type that was really, really strong and fast? What would you do then? Oh, we have to give him something to bring him back a little bit. Let's make him terrified and have night terrors about the move Protect.
Strategic perspective, it also offers a different way to strategize. Abilities that explicitly nerf your Pokemon are rare for a good reason. They're normally not very fun to play with, but the very existence of these abilities offers opportunity to play around them in interesting ways. And take it from me, when you can pull it off, it feels really good. I think they're also getting better at making these types of Pokemon. Palafin is a new Pokemon that also has an interesting ability that holds it back, but it actually is really good, or it was at least during part of Scarlet.
And Palafin is actually super usable. I mean, all you need to do is switch it out, and switching is one of the easiest things that you can do in Pokemon. Obviously, you've got like a lot of Pokemon that can switch into things. You've got like Intimidate users, you've got bulky Pokemon, you've got like type-ins that work well against your opponent's Pokemon if you have a bulky team. And then Palafin comes back in, and it's basically all might level strength. It's great.
Violet's life cycle. These Pokemon are undeniably interesting, and Achilles' abilities let us do stuff like take a landlocked Tentacruel clone to top 16 of a regional. Part 2, Cursed Bloodlines. This is a
Cursed Bloodlines
Pokemon called Wugtrio.
Wugtrio's quite good. It's decently strong. It has access to that flipper move where you hit 3 times, triple dive or something along those lines. I've seen Wugtrio knock out Pokemon left, right, and center again, it's our randomized battles that we do. True, but at the same time, that doesn't make them anything less impressive when you see it happen. It's like, oh my god, a Wugtrio getting kills. True.
Now I look at Wugtrio, you can probably guess what I'm reminded of, right? That's right, the 19th century American novelist Nathaniel Hawthorne.
Hawthorne. Oh my god, it's crazy how we both said the same thing. I saw him and I was like, oh, of course, that's Nathaniel Hawthorne. Oh, the subtitles at the bottom too. Didn't even know.
That's not who you think of? Okay, let me explain.
No, I totally get it.
In 1804, Nathaniel Hawthorne was born in Salem, Massachusetts.
And Massachusetts, yeah, exactly, right.
To a family whose history was irrevocably intertwined with their hometown. And not in a positive way. His father, John, was one of the leading judges in the Salem witch trials.
Oh my god, how did you, sorry, I had my eyes closed for a bit there.
His father, Nathaniel's grandfather, William, led the persecution of Quakers in the 1600s.
Wait, like the oats? Why did he not like oats? I think oats are great. They're nutritious. They're filling for the morning. Super easy to make. I don't see the problem.
Convinced that the actions of his ancestors had cursed his family, Hawthorne changed his name, adding a W to the family name Hathorne to become Hawthorne. In 2022, Wugtrio did the same thing, adding a W in hopes to
that was all a lead up to adding a W to Iglet.
to escape the horrible fate of having a stat line tied to its relative, Wugtrio. Much like Nathaniel Hawthorne, its efforts were in vain. See, Wugtrio belongs to a host of Pokemon who are condemned to be bad solely by virtue of their blood.
It has Aqua Jets. It has like decent attacking. Well, that's not. Well, we'll not say decent. We'll say serviceable attacking stats.
Regional forms and ecologically similar Pokemon who have the bad fortune to be tied to Pokemon who are already kind of bad.
But they're actually quite fun to use if you think
in
about
Alola,
it.
We've got Alolan Raticate, Sandslash, Dugtrio, Persian. In Galar,
wow, no, hold on. Okay, I use Persian all the time. Again, I'm going to make reference to the Then We Fight battles because that's the main type of Pokemon battle that I do personally, so I get different perspective on this. I use Persian all the time, and I have swept with Persian once, I think, and it was really funny. I used Fake Out Last Resort, and it was really good.
You've got your Stunfisk and Rapidash, and even Hisui has some Pokemon condemned by their lineage, like Hisui and Avalugg and Braviary.
Braviary's still solid. I've never seen a Hisui and Braviary and not been a little bit scared, a little bit jumbling my jibblies.
In a lot of these cases, the burden of being saddled with your original stat line is just too much to overcome. Now, I'm not saying that Alolan Sandslash's only problem is that it's related to Sandslash, but it certainly doesn't help. Now, this is of course not the case for all regional forms. Sometimes a regional form might be good because its counterpart was already good. In fact, there are quite a few Pokemon who are
like Weezing was already good, and then it got even version, it got way better with neutralizing gas. I mean, Ninetales wasn't necessarily bad either. Alolan Ninetales having the ability to call upon the weather, pretty sick.
Improvement from their old selves. We already mentioned Toedscruel. Paldean Tauros has actually seen some recent competitive play, and
I didn't even think about Paldean Tauros. Oh, but Sneasler, this thing is the top of the leaderboards in the non-legendary regulations, isn't it?
Sneasler has terrified the format in ways that Weavile could only dream of. Galarian Darmanitan is a huge upgrade from its old Unovan version, thanks.
Wait, really? Is that? I mean, he's going to explain it. I'm trying to think of why that would be. Because usual regular Darmanitan, I remember using regular Darmanitan, and it was strong. You'd slap a choice scarf on that, and it would have Flare Blitz, and it would have like a ton of power. I don't know. I genuinely thought that regular Darmanitan was better than Galarian Darmanitan, but let's find out why.
Guerrilla Tactics.
Oh, Guerrilla Tactics. Right. I guess it just make it more powerful, but you can only use the first move you select in battle, which if you're a choice user anyway, you're probably not too concerned about that.
And Alolan Ninetales has pulled the same Fired Ice trick to become the game's go-to Aurora Veil setter and resident freeze merchant. But in most of these cases, the prior Pokemon already had at least decent base stats. All they needed was a new coat of paint. And for every success story,
please do not paint your bulls or your foxes or your Ninetales. Wait, what is the Ninetales? Fox.
There is
Ninetale
someone
fox.
whose makeover didn't go as well. We can imagine a world where Hisuian Avalugg totally redistributes its stats to make use of its decent total BST. In the world that we actually live in, it got 10 more attack and speed at the cost of 10 less special stats. And a rock typing that made it quadruple weak to both fighting and steel.
Yeah,
Try
not
as you
great.
might, I can't really imagine a world where Galarian Stunfisk breaks the shackles of being, well, a Stunfisk. Actually, I can't imagine that world, and it's Pokemon Go. I know a little bit. That one's for you, Pokemon Go players. There are a few
Pokemon Go players are like pumping their fists right now. They're so hyped. They're like, yes, mentioned
notable
finally.
exceptions to this rule, but most of them come with some other factor
Oh god, okay, I don't like how Alolan Persian looks in the anime. That head is far too big. Oh my god.
that made a Pokemon that should have been bad actually viable. For example, Alolan Marowak actually was a really strong pick in the early Sun and Moon metagame because of its typing and its use in Trick Room and a couple strong moves that it has. That said, this thing gets to hold the Thick Club item, meaning what looks like a really terrible stat profile is actually pretty scary since it doubles Marowak's attack stat. Likewise, Alolan Persian saw some play as a fast prankster immune utility mon before Incineroar ever came out, but
and it has Furcoat. Furcoat is one of the best abilities out there. Best defensive ability. It halves all the damage from physical moves, and it doesn't have the drawback of Fluffy. It's essentially the better version of Fluffy, where it doesn't make you weak to fire.
Has the Fur Coat ability, effectively doubling its defense stat. If either of these Pokemon were truly locked to their old stat profiles, I doubt they'd have seen much play at all. As for why it's good,
which is funny because the Alolan Persian doesn't really necessarily look very fluffy, does it? It doesn't look like it has that furry of a coat. It looks like it has a big punchable face that you could kick. Not that I would, because I love Alolan Persian. It's fantastic, and I have a black cat called Leo who's very cute. But it doesn't look like a fluffy Pokemon. They could have made it like a Maine Coon Pokemon instead, because Maine Coons have so much hair and so much fluff. Like that looks like a furry coat Pokemon.
To be bad? Well, it's hard to argue that regional forms aren't cool. A new take on a classic Pokemon is really exciting. Personally, when they revealed Alolan Executor, I may have lost my mind a little bit. I think it would be pretty lame if these forms were only limited to Pokemon that were already really good. You might have used Eradicate way back.
Wait, did he didn't have a shirt on there, did he?
Exciting. Personally, when they revealed Alolan Executor, I may have lost my mind a little bit. I think it would be pretty...
Whoa. Okay. All
right.
right.
Aren't you excited to use it again? But this time it's 4 times weak to fighting? No? Just me?
I mean, dogs are type.
But regional forms are also given to bad Pokemon. But why are those Pokemon bad in the first place? Persian and Raticate don't get special abilities that let you fulfill other power fantasies.
But I wish that they would.
Why do they suck? Well, let's talk some more about Raticate. Part 3, First Friends. You all can be my first friends if you subscribe to the channel.
What? Really? Oh my god.
You're enjoying the video, right? I know you are because you're still watching. You should subscribe.
Yeah?
Please. I'm asking. Between asking and
but
begging.
Wolfie already did.
It helps the channel out. You'll get more content if you like this. Because you're still here, I hope you like it. Unless you really hate me, in which case you'll get more of that.
No, it's
too,
great.
if
It's
that's what
really
you
good.
want. I don't know. I'm not judging. A lot of people are
No, I promise. It's really, really
watching
good.
these videos, and most of them aren't subscribed. So
What? Okay, wait. That doesn't seem right. Hold on. 93.8% is not subscribed. That seems insane to me. Was this a YouTube short? That can't be on a long form video, surely.
I just wanted to say.
I mean, he has a lot of subscribers. It's over at 1.64 million. It's quite a bit. That's a lot of folk. I know. This got to be on a YouTube
Because
show.
why do you think you're subscribed, but you're not? Every video where I say this, people leave comments that they're like, I thought I was subscribed and I wasn't. That could be you. Don't be like,
Well, I thought I was subscribed and I was.
a fool. Be a smart person and a first friend. You remember the first Pokemon
Yeah, you should definitely subscribe to Wolfie and maybe this channel too. I mean, an idea.
you ever caught? Like, not your starter? If you started in Generation 1, like me, chances are high that you stumbled into Route 1, saw a level 2 Rattata, and it was love at first sight. Surely in this moment, you
I think the first one I ever caught was a Pidgey, and I think I used my one Pokeball on it, and I was like, "That's my Pidgey," and I didn't catch anything
thought,
else.
I'm going to use my level 2 Rattata to endeavor a Mewtwo down to 1 HP with the Focus Sash item and then finish it off with Quick Attack, right? That Rattata was an essential team member. Even as you added to the squad, it was one of your first friends. When it evolved into Eradicate, you probably cheered. Your buddy was going to go the whole distance with you, all the way to the Indigo Plateau.
Nope.
Wait, hold on a second. Is that Pokemon a freaking bug with scythes for arms?
That's kind of sick.
You know these Pokemon. These are those fond early game archetypes we all
Wait, Sentra is so good
know
though.
and love. The bird, the rat, the bugs. They're there to help you take down the early gyms, but at some point, they just can't hack it anymore.
No. I feel like most of the early game birds are solid throughout the entire game except Hoot Hoot. Not looking at you, Hoot Hoot. Not you, Hoot Hoot. You're not included in this Hoot Hoot. I wasn't talking about you, Hoot Hoot. Leave the room, Hoot Hoot. You're not on the team, Hoot Hoot.
Try as
the
you
other
might
ones
to
are really
make your
good.
Kricketune a Hall of Famer, he's probably better relegated to playing the world's saddest violin for the Bibarel and Furret, who are also wasting away in your PC box. This is where it's
that
most
bad.
obvious that some Pokemon are designed to be bad on purpose. And also, in my opinion, where it's the hardest to argue that it's a bad thing. These Pokemon have to be relatively worse compared to later game Pokemon, because that's what encourages people to keep upgrading their team. If you made them too strong, people wouldn't ever catch other Pokemon.
And I would argue that it makes you feel good if you take Pokemon that are traditionally seen as worse and you use them throughout the entire game because they are your quote-unquote friends. They're not real, unfortunately, but, you know, if you are able to keep them throughout the entire game, that makes you feel good. That makes you feel like you've done something that most people don't do.
Well, maybe. I think there's actually another argument to be made here. If I did hand you a bunch of overpowered monsters from the word get, maybe you would just stick with that for the entire game. But honestly, I think you might not feel like you deserved them. Pokemon
And also, it wouldn't feel as fun. I mean, yeah, one-shotting things does feel good sometimes, but one-shotting the entire game doesn't feel very
is a
good.
game about exploration, setting out on a journey and discovering new pieces of the world. And of course, new Pokemon. Actually, I have proof of this, both of how good that feels and how weird the alternative does. And they come from the same games, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire.
Wait, can I guess what it is? The Mega Evolutions? Is it the Mega Evolutions? It's gotta be. Also, if you just have the really good Pokemon from day dot, then you don't really have any reason to change up the team. You don't even have any reason to explore or even catch any other Pokemon, really.
These games have, to me, one of the most rewarding Pokemon hunts in the series.
Oh, what is it? What could it be? What could it be? Is it the Regis?
And one that I first encountered in Ruby and Sapphire.
It's got to be the Regis. Yeah, it has to be the Regis.
Meteor Falls is a pretty little stopover in the main story that primarily serves to advance the plot and give you a way to get back to Rustboro easily.
Bagon. That's what it is. It's Bagon because you find Bagon in Meteor Falls. And the first time you see a Bagon in Meteor Falls feels so good.
But when you're walking through, chances are that you'll probably notice the gigantic waterfall in the background that just about screams, "Come back here when you have the right HM." If you do that, you're rewarded with the usual series of trainer fights and item spawns and everything you expect, but
and one little cave right at the back, a little crevice that you can crawl in as if you're one of those people that go cave diving and then get stuck in the cave and then they make a whole YouTube video out of you 100 years after you decompose.
with a subtle twist. You'll encounter 2 dragon tamers, a class that you've probably never seen before. Their teams are loaded up with dragons, and one of them will tell you, "This is where we dragon users do our training." I remember plumbing the depths of Meteor Falls, eventually reaching a solitary cavern in the deepest part of the cave.
Yeah, and that's the only place in the game that you can find
Towards the
Bagon.
back, I see an item on the ground. I pick
Dragon
it up.
scale.
TM02,
Never mind, it's TMO2.
Dragon Claw.
Who left that there? Was it Drake?
Confirmation of what my young heart has been hoping this whole time. Here, there be dragons. Finding that Bagon spawn in Meteor Falls is one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in a game. I had to work for it, and once I had trained my Bagon up to Salamence, my work was handsomely rewarded. It said that Bagon's dreams of flight let them eventually take wing as Salamence, and I felt that same wish fulfillment in my quest to obtain a dragon. And then in Omega Ruby, Steven Stone hands you a Latios right after you beat the 3rd gym.
Yeah, it doesn't feel as good though, does it? You really just get the really overpowered Mega Evolution, the Mega Latios. There's no earning it. It's part of the main story. You have to do it.
What else do you expect from the spoiled rich heir to the stone fortune? This guy's a Nepo baby, by the way. Bad parenting. Ooh. Look, I agree that soaring through the sky on the back of the Eon Pokemon was one of the coolest things that I've done in a Pokemon game. At least at first. It did get kind of old kind of quickly. But I boxed that Latios immediately because I didn't think it was time for me to have a Latios yet. It's like,
because you can just blitz the rest of the game with it. I mean, what in this game, what can stand up to a Latios, a Mega Latios at that point? Nothing.
Gym 3. Maybe you used it, but I think that the early...
I think you didn't get it by like Gym 5. It's by Gym 5, right? I'm pretty sure, because it's once you go over the little surfing part, and then Steven's like, we gotta go to the island. Come on, we gotta go to the island, little boy. We gotta go. Wait, why is he inviting a random child to the island? That is a bit strange. Like Peter Pan?
Early game Pokemon being bad allows for the power curve of the game to rank up in a very intentional way that keeps things engaging. Breaking that curve kind of breaks enjoyment of the game. What's the point of catching new Pokemon if they're not going to be stronger than my Mega Latios? And I think Game Freak knows this now, because in Scarlet and Violet, you get handed a legendary before you even get to school. You just don't get to use it in battle until much, much, much later. And when you...
I do think that just kind of, I mean, they've always had like the protagonist chosen one kind of vibe going around the protagonist of the Pokemon games. Obviously, he is the protagonist, and obviously, like, it's a very special child that's a prodigy in what they do. But straight up just handing them a Koraidon when there's no real reason that they should have it, apart from like what they fed it a sandwich and made it feel a little bit better. It's like, oh, you should take care of this Koraidon now because you give it a sandwich. You must be so good at taking care of Koraidons. You must know all about taking care of Koraidons. You probably know their dietary requirements and things they're allergic to. Can they eat chocolate? I don't know. Are they allergic to bread? I guess they would have died if they were. So you must just have an inherent knowledge of the Koraidon physiology.
Finally do, after some very traumatizing realizations, by the way. It culminates in what is, in my opinion, one of the most genuinely affecting moments in any Pokemon game. So
that moment, oh, I didn't show it. That moment is really cool though. Like right at the end of the game, when he finally like gets the bravery and the courage to fight back, and you hear like the music going on in the background, and you find the other Koraidon that put it down all the time ago. It's a very heartfelt moment, I will say.
We've proven our point on why these first friends should be bad Pokemon, but are they actually bad?
I guess, you know what? Koraidon is Chekhov's gun. It's literally a Chekhov's gun. If you don't know, Chekhov's gun is like a trope used in filmmaking and I guess game making as well, where it states like, if you have a gun and you bring attention to a gun, the gun must be used later on. And Koraidon is you have a Koraidon, you bring attention to the Koraidon, and specifically to the fact that the Koraidon is not in a Pokeball that was bought by you, but in a Pokeball that was bought by, Professor, then that Pokeball must be used later on in the game. And it's used right at the end, which I actually think is pretty cool. I think that the last portion of that whole game is very like heartfelt and I would say like quite well written. I just wish they had voice acting when you're walking down Area Zero, because you walk down, it's like text that pops up and I was like, well, this sucks. I'm just kind of walking. I mean, the music's cool, I guess.
Pokemon, from a design perspective, no, I would not say so. These Pokemon are often fun, goofy, and cute, and even when they aren't, they're just so iconic and memorable because everybody sees them who plays the games, and many players will use at least some of them for the entire duration of the game. But competitively speaking, yeah.
Was that an alpha Bidoof?
These Pokemon are typically extraordinarily awful. Kricketune, Bibarel, Furret, Watchog, Dustox.
Stop saying for it.
These Pokemon are not accomplishing anything of note in a serious battle. But there are some notable exceptions that, strangely enough, almost entirely come from the avian members of this subgroup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Hey, take Noctowl off. That's what I'm saying. All the birds are usually quite good. Like Staraptor's sick. I mean, even Pidgeot is good. Like even Fearow is usable. You got Corviknight. You got all of them are good.
Staraptor is borderline usable thanks to the overwhelming power of Reckless Bravebird and Double Edge.
Great.
Not to mention Intimidate, Final Gambit, U-Turn, and a couple of other useful tools. A few players have used it over the years to some success, and it even made top 8 at Worlds in 2014. Corviknight is another bird who's flown high in recent years, actually recently getting its first regional win. Not that it did much to help in the finals, but by far the strongest first friend is Kalos's national bird, Talonflame.
So strong, in fact, that they had to nerf it in Generation 7.
This Pokemon is one of the most used Tailwind setters in the game's history, thanks to the combination of Tailwind and Gale Wings. It was extremely dominant when X and Y first released, and it still gets used today despite being pretty heavily nerfed. It's won every level of competition, including the world.
So if you don't know, Gale Wings used to give priority to every single flying type move that you have, and then they nerfed it so that it gives priority to flying type moves. I think when you have max HP, or it's either the first one that you do or when you have max HP, and when you take damage, it doesn't allow you to do that anymore.
Championships in 2014.
Let's go. Oh my god, that team is so iconic. Are you kidding me? There's a Talonflame and a Patterrz on it. Let's go Sagen Park. What a legend.
Where Sagen Park took home first place with a Pokemon that realistically could have been the very first thing he caught in X and Y.
Sagen Park is a genuine legend. I think Sagen Park has won in like every format of Pokemon, like TCG, Unites, like the VGC. I think that Sagen Park is the person that has just done it all.
Speaking of Sagen, well, you probably know where I'm going with this. Suffice it to say that some of these early route Pokemon can certainly perform at the highest level, but overall, they're bad, as they should be. But we still haven't covered Luvdisc. You don't find this Pokemon
do we have to cover Luvdisc?
Until the late water routes of Hoenn. It's not related to anything else as much as people wanted it to be, and it's not harboring some secret ability that'll totally change its place in history. At least, I think it's not. I mean, surely it's not. It's not.
No,
right? Yeah, it isn't. We said that late game Pokemon should be.
But what if it was? But it's not. But if it did, no, don't think about it.
Good. So why is this Pokemon so bad? Part 4. If everyone's super,
then no one is. Yeah, exactly. There we go. See, that's the point. I mean, if everyone's really strong, if everyone's legendary tier, then no one is legendary tier.
David Attenborough once said, "It is that range of biodiversity that we must care for. The whole thing, rather than just 1 or 2 stars." And you can be a star if you subscribe to this channel.
Nailed
this is a category that is inherently tied to the last one, but it still is distinct. While the first friend Pokemon are often part of evolutionary chains that simply can't compare power-wise, even when they're fully evolved, these are more of the Dex fillers. You know these Pokemon. Often, they're single-stage Pokemon who you encounter sometime in the mid-game. Maybe strong enough then to hold their weight, but thoroughly outclassed later. I'm talking Carnivine, Carbink, Tropius, Stunfisk.
Oh, I love
These Pokemon
Tropius
are
too.
underpowered to better enhance out the Pokemon world's semblance to a diverse ecosystem. And sometimes
Carnivine's kind of cool, though.
to give the NPCs Pokemon that even a kid can beat without breaking a sweat.
And also to point out and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Look at this Carnivine. That's so sick.
Satoshi Tajiri famously drew the inspiration for Pokemon from collecting insects as a kid.
Oh my god, whoa, oh, they're so big.
And you can imagine that in his childhood exploration,
wait, collected insects sounds interesting. How do you collect them? Do you just put them in a jar? Don't they starve?
he saw a bevy of different bugs.
Or do you just kind of kill them?
Some of them stronger or more dominant than others. Dive into the Hoenn waters, and among the Luvdisc, you'll find Huntal and Gorbis patrolling the ocean floors. Sharpedos speeding between the currents.
There's a shiny!
And past behemoth whale lords, ancient Relicanth, who have watched the whole cycle turn over time and time again.
Did you know that Relicanth's body is actually a map and the red marks the spot? You see that? It's like the red is the spot and the Relicanth is in the map.
And deeper still, Kyogre in its slumber. Apart from replicating ecological diversity, the Luvdiscs of the world have to exist for the Kyogres to exist. Because if this thing were as strong as this thing, well, what would be the point of even catching the Pokemon on the box? That is an extreme example, but you see the point. Apart from that, there's also a special kind of joy in using a Pokemon that you
they love each other.
No, just isn't up to snuff with your opponents. I've given Luvdisc a lot of flack in this video, but that very status as a low-powered fish also makes it special to some people. I have a friend who once set out to clear the Elite Four in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire with just a single Luvdisc. You
can do it. It is possible. There's people do the challenges all the time. It's like, can I beat Pokemon with just this one little fella? And you can do it with a Luvdisc, probably. Do you think everyone's ever done it with a Luvdisc? I realize that sentence sounds bad. I obviously don't mean, I don't, you know what I mean. There you go. See, you got Scott's Thoughts doing Pokemon Emeralds. You got Mystic Umbreon doing only Ruby and Sapphire. You got Chaotic Meatball. You got Bard Breaker. Oh my god, there's so many Luvdisc only challenges. Jesus Christ. Look at all these. Okay, it's actually not that many. There is what? There's six. There's six. Six people have done it, but it is
Sure,
possible.
he had to put the metronome item on it to make sure its surfs were doing enough damage, and stock up with endless lepa berries to make it through, but that love disc emerged as a champion, and for him, as one of his new favorite Pokemon. Different power levels offer different player experiences. Well, most of the time. Some of these things really are so bad that it is offensive. If you watch my video on the worst Pokemon ever, you know that when I first ran into Carnivine and Diamond and Pearl, I was actually super hyped to use it. And
I still think Carnivine is like pretty good for like a playthrough. It's fun to use.
I tried to send it out in battle. It's a mediocre grass type with Levitate to go from resisting ground moves to being immune to them.
But like it's really good against ground types
Floating
now.
over toxic spikes. This is the kind of bad Pokemon that I wouldn't really even be excited about using because it doesn't have a niche. And Game Freak seems to get that, honestly. The old model of the mediocre single stager, Lovedis, Carnivine, Tropius, it seems to have changed. Nowadays, these Pokemon often get some sort of signature ability or move that, while it might not make them amazing, at least
but it does something, yeah. A lot of signature abilities out there like Cudchew and Cheek Pouch and all those.
Makes them unique to play. They've got their thing, you know what I mean? Kamala can't be status because of Comatose. Bruxish, for as much as I hate the way it looks, gets to spam Strong Jaw Psychic Fangs.
I mean, Bruxish isn't that bad.
Or
really?
even Dazzling as its signature ability. Cramorant has Gulp Missile. Ice Cube gets Ice Face. Stone.
I just recently realized that Ice Cube doubles in speed when its Ice Face breaks. So Ice Cube is like genuinely kind of useful. I really want to like Ice Cube, but it's just something about the face that makes me uncomfortable. I mean, I know it looks so much like Pingu, but it makes me a little weirded out.
Sometimes these weird signature abilities actually even can make a Pokemon good. Maybe sometimes a little bit too good. In addition to changing the archetype, Game Freak has also updated or buffed some of these old bad Pokemon, either with new abilities or evolutions. Mawile, one of the most useless Pokemon in the game before Generation 6.
My favorite Mega Evolution in the game is Mega Mawile.
One of the strongest thanks to the addition of the Fairy typing and the notorious Mega Mawile. Farfetch'd got a full-on new evolution. A bunch of Pokemon that used to fit this category no longer do because they've been given evolutions, like Murkrow, Girafarig,
Stantler.
Stantler. Really, Gen 2 was full of these things. Then there are Pokemon who got...
That's why I think Gen 2 is one of like the most mid-powered generation. Gen 2 might be the weakest generation in terms of power. They introduced so many Pokemon that just don't do anything. Like so many of them. And you have to think, well, why did they make so many weak ones? And then why did they make Johto filled with Kanto Pokemon instead of Johto Pokemon?
New abilities to make them stronger, such as Volbeat and Illumise with the Prankster ability. No new evolution needed to make them at least a bit more relevant. Though sometimes this does end up creating a really strong Pokemon, most of the Pokemon I just named are still bad in most situations. But as a competitive player, I like that better than the old model of bad in every situation. You're not going to see Ice
Well, Murkrow was actually really popular in Scarlet and Violet competitive for a while, wasn't
and
it?
Stonejourner taking over the ranked ladder, but it is fun for me to try and make them work with the strengths that they do have. If you asked me to take Love Disc to the top of the ladder, I'd probably try and pass off an Alama as Love Disc to trick you and
just call it Love Disc. Honestly, most people might not even be able to tell the
make it
difference.
feel a little bit more doable, though not that much easier. It's a nice way for Game Freak to
Is Alama even in Scarlet and Violet? I don't think it
update
is.
Pokemon while still keeping power levels in check. Now, part of you might think that Game Freak is just messing up here, that they actually intend all of the Pokemon to be strong, but they just missed the mark on balance. Well, I've got a counterpoint for you. A Pokemon that is essentially Game Freak saying, this thing is supposed to suck.
I mean, there's so many of the Pokemon
And
like
it's
that.
from the most recent generation.
Spidops.
That Pokemon, of course, is the Dunsparce.
Wait, what? No. Oh, he's not
If you weren't
bad,
around back in
is
the
he?
early 2000s, you might not know the reputation that Dunsparce had in the community. Dunsparce in itself seemed like a troll Pokemon back in Gold and Silver. It was a phenomenally rare Pokemon with only a 1% chance of appearing in one of the smallest caves in the game.
That's why I had such a hard time finding it. I thought maybe like 5%, but 1% is insanely
Finding
low.
it was harder than the Bagon journey I described earlier. If you were lucky enough to find it, you might think, this thing's so rare, it's gotta be super strong.
Surely it evolves into something spectacular and really, really powerful.
Right? Instead, it was one of the most useless Pokemon in the series, especially before abilities were introduced.
Yeah, and I mean, then it got like Glare and Seringrace, and it became really, really annoying.
A weak, slow, normal type with pretty much no redeeming factors. But precisely because Dunsparce is so weak, and
But like, it's cool though. Like, to have one is pretty interesting. To catch it seems sick.
And so rare, the community obsessed about it. For years, they'd make fake Dunsparce evolutions, dreaming of a day when it unleashed its true power. Most of them looked like overpowered dragon types, with Dunsparce's puny wings expanded to soar across the sky. Surely, eventually, Game Freak would give this thing
I could see it being turned into like a normal fairy type, to be honest.
some love.
I mean, that didn't happen, but I could
Right?
seen it.
The community waited more than 20 years, and finally, in Scarlet and Violet, their wishes were answered.
I like the Dunsparce.
Finally got its evolution. The Dunsparce, who is a Dunsparce with one extra segment. It's got slightly better stats.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's like boosted in all of its stats. It's got 100 attack, 125 HP.
An okay signature move, and
Okay, Hyper can go through Protect as well.
that's it. It's bad. The only thing that sets the Dunsparce apart is the 1 in 100 chance for it to be a 3-segment Dunsparce when it evolves.
Which actually does not change anything about
Which
it.
to me is just Game Freak pointing and laughing at us saying, yeah, you thought it was funny when it's just a longer Dunsparce? Well, if you're crazy enough, you can try to find one that's even longer. This Pokemon is bad on purpose. It's worse than Stonejourner and probably most other Pokemon too. My point is, the Dunsparce proves that Game Freak actively makes
It did a lot of damage there, didn't
Pokemon
it?
bad for their own reasons. I'm not a huge fan of Dunsparce, but I do like these other Pokemon that try to be good and bad at the same time.
I like the Dunsparce. Nice's quite
These
good.
Pokemon are allowed to still be weak most of the time, which we've said is a good thing. And they can be strong in very specific situations. It's fun to try to figure out their unique abilities, and it even doubles down on the ecological diversity angle we were discussing earlier.
That's true. I mean, everything has unique. Every evolution is specific to their climates, their surroundings, and the other creatures that inhabit their surroundings as well. So, I mean, that makes sense. Like, for example, the Dunsparce, maybe it's in an area with a lot of rocks that need to be drilled. And Bruxish obviously needs a strong jaw to chomp through all the love disc it's going to eat.
Sometimes, though, you can be too unique. And that leads us to our final category. Part 5, the gimmicks. These are the Pokemon that are designed to show off a game mechanic more than anything else.
Pseudo-Udo.
A lot of the time, some NPC
form.
is going to hand you one of these things paired with an explanation of the new and innovative mechanic that they're meant to demonstrate, which chances are you'll forget about as soon as you have the chance to box it.
I will say, I did use a cast form recently in a Nuzlocke, and I kept it on my team. It was my starter. I kept it on my team the entire time. I took it to the champion, and it killed half the champion's team. So I want to say I am a little bit more of a cast form fan now, even though it's very ugly.
There's a wide range to these things. Some of them illustrate a gimmick found otherwise in the game. Unknown, of course, is a whole language unto itself that's critical not just to the plot of the Johto games, but to an entire Pokemon movie. It also happens to be the demonstration of hidden power, first introduced in Generation 2. Cherim or Wormadam are probably the first time you'll see a Pokemon that changes forms, something introduced in Generation 4. Although that does assume you're going to remember Cherim or Wormadam after you see them. Cast form shows off the power of weather in a very easy to understand visual way. While
The power of weather, which in cast form's hands, that is not very powerful.
Deerling and Sawsbuck demonstrate Unova's seasonal changes.
And I've used a Sawsbuck to great success. I mean, you slap a choice band on that thing and make it Terra normal and give it double edge. Damn, it's doing a lot of damage.
Other times, these Pokemon gimmicks exist just to have a gimmick. These are the ones that start to get a little tricky. For example, there's Spinda, who I've got no beef with. Every Spinda is different. What a great metaphor for the variety inherent in nature. More important,
True. And the best ones, the bald Spinders. Anything that doesn't have a red dot like near its head, brilliant.
what an invaluable tool for taking out the 1 billion lions. 4 billion Spindas is a lot of Spindas.
Can you imagine having a legion of Spinda?
Leon wants to change its outfit every 5 seconds? Girl, me too. Relatable queen. I guess there's no real reason that these Pokemon all have to be bad on like a statistical level, but for some reason, they almost always are. Perhaps the best reason we can find is the one gimmick that shows us what happens when gimmicks go bad. Gimmicks go bad. By which I mean when they're good.
Nice edit.
Smeargle. Smeargle's meant to
Oh no. Oh no. Smeargle is the reason the Dark Void is no longer usable.
represent artistic freedom, the power to express yourself limitlessly with its move choice, crafting a Smeargle that fits your vision of what Pokemon should look like. Turns out, everyone is really into a vision that looks something like a Dark Void plunging your opponent into endless nightmares. No,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It is just when given limitless possibility and infinite creativity, people will always drift towards, you know, the best one.
I swear, I don't want to use Dark Void. It's just that Darkrai is my favorite artist. You know,
I love Darkrai. I think it's fantastic. They never should have allowed Smeargle to have Dark Void. And when they took it away from Smeargle and made it so that Darkrai is the only Pokemon that could learn Dark Void, why did they also subsequently nerf the accuracy of Dark Void? Is it because it hits both Pokemon on the other side of the field? Yes. Is it very useful? Yo, absolutely. It's so good. What's my point?
No, me personally, I'm just a big fan of his endless void era. You too? Wow. What are the chances? See in 3 turns, I guess. Even with terrible stats, Smeargle's artistic aspirations have caused so many headaches over my years of competitive Pokemon that Game Freak had to nerf it.
Oh my god, it was 80% accurate. Wow. They should have nerfed it to like 70 at least.
Twice. So maybe that's the reason these gimmicks are bad. Because gimmicks being good is just not fun. These Pokemon are mostly relegated to being fun bursts of flavor in the game. Something you look at to say, huh, that's neat, and then never think about again. I've covered a decent...
I mean, I'm sure Soulspark is someone's favorite Pokemon. I'm sure Charon's someone's favorite Pokemon. I'm sure Spinda is liked by someone.
Amount of them, but there are 2 gimmick Pokemon that to me take the cake for being terrible. And it's because their gimmicks don't even exist anymore. The first is
Z moves, Mega Evolution. The gimmicks don't exist anymore. I'm trying to think of all like the regional gimmicks. Gigantamax? It's not Zacian, is it?
This is Furfrou, who's
wait, I mean, it has fur coat. I mean, that's
customizable hairstyles are an homage to X and Y's introduction of player customization for the first time ever in the series. These
True, you could style your dog, which is kind of cute. I really like the Egyptian
different
one.
hairstyles did pretty much nothing at all, and you can only change Furfrou style at one place in each of the games that it's in. Even
I really feel like Furfrou, the styles should do something. Like each style boosts a different stat.
more baffling, your Furfrou's coat isn't permanent. It loses the haircut after 5 days or whenever you take it in and out of a box, meaning to even keep it tricked out, you need to keep it in your team the entire time.
And it only lasts for 5 days? What's the point?
And while Furfrou might have access to a great ability in Fur Coat, its stats are so thoroughly terrible that it can't even use it very well. Actually, that's a lot better than I thought it was. Now you too can experience the real-life cost of paying exorbitant amounts of money to give your dog a haircut it'll immediately lose after rolling in the dirt. After Generation 7, this Pokemon hasn't even been available in a single game. Likely
yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised, but Fur Coat, listen, if they did one thing right, it introduced Fur Coat, and Fur Coat is a really fantastic defensive ability.
Realize no one's going to spend their time and hard-earned Pokebucks to spray paint a dog that wouldn't even be on their team. But while it's unlikely that Furfrou's customization comes back anytime soon, I can see a world where it returns, especially if Game Freak makes the haircut last longer. The next Pokemon,
it should just last forever. I don't know why it doesn't last forever. I mean, I know haircuts in general don't last forever, but come on, man.
Its gimmick is gone forever because if Game Freak brings it back, they're gonna have some angry parents to deal with.
Chatot, when you can speak into the microphone.
Is a terrible bird Pokemon.
Mine never worked. It straight up just never worked. It would just be like whenever you speak into the microphone. If you don't know, by the way, Chatter in the first generation 4 games, since your DS had a mic, you could speak into the microphone and Chatter would say whatever you said into the microphone whenever you use the move. Instead of like having a sound effect that would use your audio. So you could just say in whatever you wanted into it. You could do secrets. You could tell secrets to Chatot, and then it would tell secrets to everyone.
Pokemon introduced in Generation 4 with exactly one special quality: its signature move, Chatter. Chatter, when introduced, was a 60 base power normal type special move that had a chance to confuse the opponent. How much chance? Well, that depends on the chatter. See, in Generation 4, you could actually use chatter outside of battle and record your own audio to be played when the move was used. If you didn't use custom audio, the move would have a 1% chance, but depending on what audio you recorded, Chatot's confusion chance could be either 1, 11, or 31%. And in a stunningly bad decision from Game Freak, the chance pretty much correlated to the volume of the recording, meaning the best chance of confusion was to teach your parrot to scream loudly at the opponent. In Gen 5, the confusion chance got shifted a bit, but
wait, that's actually so funny.
That was the only change to the move. Chatot, however, earned the dubious distinction of becoming the only non-legendary or mythical Pokemon to be banned from Generation 5's Global Battle Union. Likely because Game Freak realized that if you were gonna use a move as bad as Chatter already, most people probably had more nefarious intent.
Oh no, they're saying slurs on. They're making Chatot say slurs. Please don't make your Chatot say slurs, please.
Tensions of communication. Chatot can say slurs. In Gen 6, Game Freak removed the custom audio entirely. And
wait, so like you're telling me, hold on, okay. It's one thing to have it like on your end, but to have it on the other person's end, they also hear what your chatter was. That's kind of insane. That should never have been allowed in the first place. It should just be on your
Probably
end.
feeling bad for Chatot. Buff Chatter to base 65 power and 100% confusion rate. Chatot, while available in Legends Arceus, has also been conspicuously absent from the last 2 generations of Pokemon.
I mean, it's a really big character in the Mystery Dungeon game, so they can't hate it
And
that
I
much.
suspect even if it does return, it will be condemned to an eternity of being a bad Pokemon without even a crappy
Chatot.
gimmick to redeem it. There are
That's so
many
sad.
reasons that a Pokemon can be bad. These categories aren't official either. Plenty of Pokemon don't quite fit into one box or fit into multiple, like the gimmick Pokemon who are also the mid-game single stagers, or Pokemon with unique abilities who are still held back by their need to be close to their relative stats. I might have broken them into different
Galvanized
categories,
Explosion,
but at the end of the day, they all really share the same reason for being bad, and it's something we already said earlier on. Different power levels offer different player experiences. Imagine how boring Nuzlocke or other challenge runs would be if every Pokemon was just overpowered. Different power levels,
true.
as with the first friends, are key, not just to making powerful Pokemon feel good, but to making all Pokemon feel good. Most of the time. I still don't have anything good to say about Carnivine. Thanks for watching. If you like hearing me talk about
Carnivine's like kind of strong
Pokemon that are bad,
physically,
you
right?
might be
Isn't
curious
it?
to know what
Is
I
it that
think
bad?
the worst Pokemon of all time is. I spent a lot of time looking through some pretty awful Pokemon, and some of them were so bad we didn't even mention them here. You should
go watch that video. Absolutely go watch that video. Please go watch Wolfie's Worlds video. It's absolutely fantastic. And make sure you subscribe to him as well. You got to watch the Worlds video. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe here.